Hello everyone, welcome to the Law Excellence YouTube channel. So today we're going to be covering an important current issue, and that is the case of Maharashtra hung assembly that has been in the news from past few weeks. So alright, let's just get started. This slide carries the quick view of what all it's gonna be in the lecture. So definitely a brief political background, but again a brief one because this is not relevant for our exams. What's important is the constitutional aspects, the statutory and other aspects. Very important is the role of governor, further the recommendations in this very regard of Sarkaria Commission and Punchhi Commission. Finally, we'll look into the role of Supreme Court, particularly when Supreme Court has intervened in the cases of hung assemblies, as we have already witnessed in the Karnataka case, in the Uttarakhand case. And finally, we'll see what could be a possible way forward. So alright friends, let's get started. So exactly what happened was, definitely there was election in the Maharashtra Legislative Assembly and no party got a clear-cut majority. That has to be 50% of the total legislative seats. So definitely in Maharashtra we have total 288 seats, so nobody got 144, and this turns out to be a perfect case of hung assembly. Largest party turns out to be BJP, and a sequence of events followed wherein the governor called in the largest party to formulate the government. Of course, 105 seats are not sufficient, so BJP showed incompetency in the same very regard. This was followed by governor calling the Shiv Sena and then NCP, and definitely nobody could form the government. And finally, on 12th of November, the precedent rule was imposed. We are not going into the politics of entire things. For example, only one day was given to the Shiv Sena and to the NCP, but they demanded more days because these things are not relevant for our exams. What's relevant is that yes, hung assembly was there. Finally, precedent rule was invoked. And the most important thing here is, even if precedent rule was imposed, still a party or a coalition of parties can go to the governor requesting them to allow them to form the government. Alright. So, precedent rule imposed under Article 356, this was as per the provision of the Constitution, because Supreme Court in the S.R. Bommai case of the 1994 categorically stated that if no party has got the majority and there is a hung assembly case, then definitely precedent rule can be imposed. So this is as per the constitutional provisions. But of course, the Sarkaria Commission has also stated that precedent rule has to be imposed in rarest of the rare cases. But again, there is a grey area here, but as such this precedent rule imposition was as per the Supreme Court's proper and improper demarcation that it did in the S.R. Bommai case of the 1994. Alright, now the point of contention is the way the precedent rule was revoked. So definitely the politics was going on, and we of course are not supposed to go into that much of detail here. So by the time the three major parties, that is minor parties of course, but when they came together they became into something that could formulate the government. They got more than 144 seats, that is more than 50% of the seats. So by the time they were about to go to the governor in order to form the government, immediately at the early morning, precedent rule was revoked, and the Devendra Fadnavis, he was sworn in as the chief minister of the Maharashtra, and one more leader, that is NCP leader, not a leader per se, but the second party in line, Ajit Pawar, was sworn in as the deputy CM. Again, names are not important, just to provide a context here I am narrating the names. Alright, so revocation as such, constitutionally it should have been in a way wherein Prime Minister should have given a recommendation to the President to revoke the Precedent rule, and this recommendation has to be done in consultation with the Council of Ministers. This is a proper way. But in this particular case, Prime Minister on its own unilaterally recommended the revocation of Precedent rule to the President, and the same was done immediately. But again, there is a leeway here that was used by the government, and this revocation is also constitutionally valid. Alright, so what exactly the leeway is? The Rule 12 of Transaction of Business Rules 1961. So this I would say is extremely important, so do listen to it with urgency and with patience. So basically what's happening is, under Transaction of Business Rules 1961, we have a Rule 12 wherein any secretary of the concerned minister or the department, it can submit a recommendation to the Chief Secretary wherein it can state that exceptional circumstances are there wherein extensive consultation with the Council of Ministers cannot be held and the decision needs to be taken immediately. And further, the Chief Secretary will send this very recommendation to the Prime Minister, and Prime Minister, using Rule 12 of the Transaction of Business Rules 1961, will recommend the President to do the same. Now here the point of importance here is that ex post facto approval can be there that needs to be taken from the Council of Ministers. But again, there is also one exception here. If Chief Secretary advise to the contrary, then there is no need for the Prime Minister to take approval of the Council of Ministers even when the task has already been done. So this entire is the area of leeway which was used by the Prime Minister here. Exceptional power given to the Prime Minister to meet the unforeseen situation, that is Rule 12, and this same rule was used by government in month of August when the J&K state was bifurcated. So this is very important, Transaction of Business Rules 1961 and the Rule 12. Who initiate the procedure? The Secretary of the concerned department and not the Chief Secretary. This can be a possible prelims question. Alright. Further, now definitely everything was as per the constitutional domain, but the role of governor is something which comes into limelight here. And what exactly is this issue? So governor, we know, has got lot of situational discretion, but we'll stick to only one situational discretion because we have to stick to the topic in hand here. So as per the situational discretion, when there is a hung assembly, the appointment of CM when no party has a clear-cut majority in the state legislative assembly, or when the CM dies in office and there is no obvious successor. So here governor can appoint any person as the CM. Governor can call in any party to formulate the government, and this is the situational discretion of the governor. But again, Punchhi Commission, that was formulated in the year 2010 to study and to improve the central state relations, Punchhi Commission categorically has given certain guidelines. For example, it stated that there should be clear guidelines for the appointment of CM so that there is no sort of regulation. There is some sort of regulation on discretionary power of the governor. Very important. So discretionary power of governor are not absolute. Again, Punchhi Commission has given an order of precedent to be followed by the governor for inviting the parties to form a government in the state. And what that order of precedent is? Very obvious order of precedent, I will say, that first of all there has to be a calling to the largest pre-poll alliance. In this particular case, BJP and Shiv Sena had a pre-poll alliance, but it could not go away with the government formulation because of their internal politics, and we don't really need to go into it. But definitely largest pre-poll alliance was not there. Then governor has to call a single largest party, which turns out to be the BJP, and governor did call it, but again BJP could not formulate the government. And then governor has to call the post-poll alliance with a few parties joining the government. Now these parties, they were supposed to go to the government, but just prior to this, the single largest party, that is the BJP, was again given a chance to formulate the government, and it did form the government. Not government per se, but definitely the swearing in of the chief minister did take place. Now here the point emphasis is that even Punchhi Commission is not very clear. We have to really go into the details of what exactly has to be done, because Punchhi Commission also has a grey area here, that whether once the single largest party has denied the formulation of government, should it again be given a chance before exhausting the other option. So definitely certain leeways are there which was exploited by the party in hand. But again, we don't really need to go into the politics here. Going forward. Now very important is the role of Supreme Court in this particular case, because government categorically stated in the Supreme Court that the court has no role to intervene into the legislative domain, into the executive domain. There is clear-cut demarcation of powers of the legislature and judiciary. But again, Supreme Court is something which always hold the constitutional morality, and it always gives emphasis on the basic structure doctrine, and definitely Supreme Court did intervene. So role of Supreme Court is very important in two particular cases, because we are talking about this case only, so we'll stick to that only. In convening the legislative assembly. So can Supreme Court intervene in convening the legislative assembly? So definitely under the constitution, the governor convenes the session of the legislature. But on multiple occasions in the past, the Supreme Court has ordered the convening of the assembly to hold the floor test. Very important. Now the second point is, can Supreme Court regulate the floor test itself? So definitely Supreme Court can, because we have the precedence here. For example, in the 2018 Karnataka hung assembly case, the apex court ordered live telecast of the proceedings. And further, in 2016 Uttarakhand floor test case, the court had prescribed that supporting and opposing MLAs, they should line up on two sides of the house so that their numbers could be counted individually by show of hands. And further, the outcome of this floor test was sent to the apex court in a sealed cover. So clearly Supreme Court is intervening proactively when it comes to restoring the constitutional provisions. So what could be the possible way forward now? So definitely constitutional morality has to be upheld, and there cannot be any way of exploiting the loopholes in the constitution or in the statutory, because constitution has to be implemented in the letter and spirit. And definitely Supreme Court is our guiding light. And the Supreme Court, for the most important thing here is that on the 26th of November 2019, the day which we celebrate as the Constitution Day, Supreme Court ordered that the floor test is to be held within 24 hours. And obviously, because we don't really need to go into the politics, but just to make things more clear, I would say that definitely NCP, the defected member, that is Ajit Pawar, they didn't have the support of the 54 MLAs that he was trying to project to be on their side. And further, BJP also didn't have the sufficient strength. So very immediate day the Chief Minister resigned, and definitely floor test is to be held. And you can follow up the news and on your own, and you can watch the Hindu analysis that's there in the Law Excellence, so as to get a regular updation of what exactly is going on. So definitely Supreme Court restored the constitutional morality and the constitutional provision on the 26th of November when we were celebrating the Constitutional Day. So very important. So definitely this should be the way forward, that Punchhi Commission's recommendations need to be implemented into the letter and spirit. As it states, the governor has to be something who is above the party politics, and again more clarity has to be brought into the exact conduct of the governor when it comes to the hung assembly. So this is it, friends. Thank you so much for watching the video, and we'll keep the things updated as and when anything further comes into the picture. Alright, thank you so much once again. Goodbye.